गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गन शॉट। गन शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। इट्स अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन, व्हाई डज ट्रम्प एंड यूएसए वांट ग्रीनलैंड? Prima facie it appears as if it's a whimsical request or a whimsical thought, and it appears to be mad. But even I thought so at the beginning. ये क्या पागल सब बात कर रहा है यार? ग्रीनलैंड खरीदना चाहता है, कनाडा खरीदना चाहता है, and Panama. But when you went into the details, there was a method in this madness which Trump has put out. And I found it very interesting. I don't know how much you'll find it interesting, but let me put it across to all of you. And I'll start with Trump's own view about this whole affair, because let's first hear what Trump has to say, and then I will talk what I have to talk. Here it goes.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. You don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen. We're not letting it happen. And if Denmark wants to get to a conclusion, but nobody knows if they even have any right, title, or interest. The people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
So look at it. He's spoken very clearly. He wants Greenland for security of USA. He doesn't want Russian and Chinese ships to be going around. What's he talking of? He's talking of the Arctic Circle. But is that the only thing? No. As he was talking, you found that Trump Jr., that's the guy in the photograph, he landed in Greenland. And he started talking. What he spoke, we don't know, but it will come out. And then who, of all people, Elon Musk tweets. He retweets this message. So he says, Trump Jr. says Greenland is beautiful, and Elon Musk says, if the people of Greenland want to be part of America, which I hope they do, they would be most welcome. So Trump is playing a fiddle on this. Very funny. Why is Trump getting involved in Greenland? Scratch your head. But it's not very difficult. And I got the answer very quickly when I was doing some research on AI. Now AI and Greenland are connected, and many more things. So let's go over the whole thing. But before that, this is not a new thing which has happened. Trump wanted to buy Greenland off, in 2019. This is the report. 2019, Trump wants to buy Greenland. And then, what are the issues involved? There's AI, there's missile defense, there's energy, there's food security, Arctic sea routes, and geopolitics. The whole story is there in this kahani. And it looks simple for many reasons, but it is complicated. So let's see what is so complicated about it. Let's talk the geography first. This is the Arctic Circle. These are the Arctic nations, right? The Arctic nations are Russia, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, Denmark, that is Greenland, which is part of Denmark, Canada, and of course USA. Okay. Now, if you look at this map, the entry on one side of say, let's call it the western end of the Arctic Circle is through the Bering Strait. Other side is Russia, this side is Alaska. Okay. On the other end, it's open sea. But Greenland, if you see, has a dominant role in that, dominant position. And on the edge of the Arctic Circle, you have Iceland with its capital at Reykjavik. Okay. Now, why is this problem? It's because of climate change and shrinking of the Arctic cap. The Arctic Ocean was largely frozen. This is the 100-year shift. In 1885, the white portion in this indicates the extent of the polar ice cap. In 1985, 100 years later, the ice cap has shrunk. And it is estimated by the end of this century, this will be the ice cap. Very little part, and that too over Greenland. Just over Greenland. And then the Arctic channels will be completely open. Now, why is this happening? It's a combination of natural climate change, because as you go back in time, we spoke of the ice age. We were living in the ice age at one point of time, and the globe warmed up and things opened up, and you are where you are. A lot of things opened up. Now that is a natural process of warming of the globe, but then that's combined with the climate change and global warming, and it is accelerating. What we have lost in the past 150 years, probably in the next 50 years, we'll lose out in the ice caps, the polar ice caps. So just to give you an idea, on the left is the picture as of September 1984 and 2016, 50 years later, or thereabouts. Sorry, about 30 years later. My mistake. 32 years later, really, to be precise. You already see that the polar ice cap has shrunk in the past 30 years. Now, what is it that I just took this Google Earth photograph yesterday? You can see the white part and a certain amount of blue in it. So there is shrinking. Has it gone beyond what it was earlier? We don't know. So this is what it is. Now, why is this important? There are two passages existing. They are existing around the polar ice cap. One is called the Northwest Passage. One is called the Northeast Passage. The Northwest Passage goes along Canada. The Northeast Passage skirts Russia. These passages at this point of time are open only during the summer months. Winter, it's virtually closed. Right? Even now, it's not easy to navigate through. You don't know when you'll get stuck, where you'll get stuck. So it's not easy to transit this. Okay. Now, to get a better idea of this, I've shown it. I'll just animate it so that people understand what I'm talking. Yeah. This one which I showed now, is called the Northwest Passage. Now that Northwest Passage is generally controlled by USA because Canada depends on USA for control. And Greenland is allied to USA through Denmark. And Denmark is an ally of USA. So that's controlled. The Northeastern Passage is controlled by Russia. Okay. What is at stake here is a central passage. Once the central passage opens, you will find all kinds of people loafing up and down. And most importantly, the Chinese. Why Chinese will come to it? Because the Chinese get a chance to get out of the Malacca Strait problem. Of course, it's a moot point that they'll be straight away stuck in the Bering Strait, that is here, right? And they'll be under American monitoring system. But if Greenland was part of America, then they'll still be under the monitoring system of USA very tightly. So the polar ice routes, the you know, or the polar sea routes, once they open up, whoever holds on to Greenland, right, is at an advantageous position, and that you can make out very clearly. Very interesting so far. Okay, let's look beyond that. See the distances. There's the Suez route and the Arctic route. This route represents the route from Japan to Rotterdam, that is Netherlands. So when you go through the Suez route, first you hit the Malacca Strait, then you cross the Indian Ocean and hit the Gulf of Aden and Suez Canal, and then cross it and you go through the Gibraltar, Straits of Gibraltar, and then you hit Rotterdam. So you're transiting through Malacca Strait, Gulf of Aden, Suez Canal, and the Straits of Gibraltar. Such a long route. There, on the north, it's very simple. You go through the north, you go through the Bering Strait, and you get through. As simple as that. And shorter. So for China, it beats the Malacca dilemma to a large extent, but not fully. Not fully. Right? And it gives oil route from Russia. And then if Russia and China continue to cooperate, then the dynamics change considerably. So now I have now already introduced the Arctic route and why it's important, how it's important for China and anyone, China, Japan, everything. But does it mean that Indian Ocean will fall in value? That won't happen because the energy transition is still through this place. Okay, right. What next? Okay, the other important thing, and this is from flight radar. I just picked up this photograph today. If you see, most of the transatlantic routes fly somewhere near Greenland airspace. Okay, I mean, the natural reaction that if you no one wants to fly over blindly over an ocean. They would like something underneath, if possible. So they do fly over Greenland. So that means if Trump's plan becomes okay, and Canada is incorporated as the 51st state, which he's talking of, and Greenland also becomes part of USA, the complete airspace over the polar ice cap is his. So he can squeeze the airspace. USA, I'm not, can squeeze the airspace. And that is Trump's idea when he says, I'm looking at security. Security of, he spoke of only ships, Russian ships and all that. But there's an issue of airspace also. Okay, what is Greenland all about? We have to understand what this place is before we talk. Got about 56,000 people, though Trump in his talk said 45,000, but 56,000. It's a land filled with fresh water and rich oceans. Fresh water is important. Okay. Not ocean water, fresh water out of Greenland mountains. the ice cap over Greenland. It's got the largest deposit of rare earth minerals outside China, which is lying underdeveloped. Besides, it's got a lot of other minerals untapped in the ice: coal, oil, uranium, and much more. So many I've listed out. Have a look. But most important in this is uranium. I'll come to uranium later. And of course, natural oil. At this point of time, you can't drill it out. But give it 20, 30 years, you should be able to do it. Okay. It's got the largest reserves of fish. This is important. China wants to get fish from there because China is 40% food insecure. Okay. Of course, when the ice cap melts, shipping routes will become even more valuable. That's a given which I spoke of. So all these factors make Greenland very important. If you see on the right, except the fringes of Greenland, the rest is all pure ice, solid ice. That's where the freshwater reserve comes in. Okay. Now, you gotta understand the tech acceleration and Greenland. What's the connect? Why is Elon Musk jumping up and down? He says, welcome Greenland to as part of USA, all that. Because there's tech acceleration. Tech acceleration is going on. And getting hold of Greenland is part of that. Sometime next week, I'll do this program on AI. What changes are happening in AI and how will it affect the military and many other issues. There are new things which I've learned my ongoing research. But let me give you the first thing out. Now for AI future, energy is a key issue. Just for information, ChatGPT uses 10 times the amount of energy required for a normal Google search today. Tomorrow, when graphical processing units come into being, quantum computing comes into being, there'll not be enough energy in this world. So AI will get constrained by energy, data, everything, data centers. Today's data centers will morph completely. All this is there in the net. People talk of it. Any techie will tell you. So tech accelerationists are surrounding Trump. Who are these? Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Elon Musk and company. They all of them have given money to Trump. All. Anything 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, they've just donated. Okay, bhai, le lo, Greenland le aao hamare liye. And Trump also wants USA to be energy dominant. But what does Greenland have to do with all this? Uranium. Greenland is the key. Uranium, untapped uranium reserves in Greenland will power nuclear reactors. It's easy to say put up nuclear reactors. But where is the fuel for it? And this is an opportunity for India. Why am I saying this? At some point of time, the amount of uranium which you can tap from Greenland, even 3, 4, 5 years from now, will be limited. You will need energy beyond that. For that, people have to come to India for the thorium cycle. And by then, the thorium cycle would have matured. But we'll still need plutonium or uranium to start and have FTBRs to get the thorium cycle going. And if India talks with all these Microsofts and Amazons and Googles and Apples of this world, you'll get uranium from here. I mean, you need to think long term. People people have no choice but to invest in India for energy in the future. Because China will not give them. So they have to come to India. So people who think no, India will not rise and energy. And that energy you can't take from India to USA. Okay. So you have a bargaining chip where you have data centers in India. Am I building some funny picture, pie in the sky? No, it is there. Does our government, is our government alive to this? So you will say, यार ये पुराना जनरल कहाँ ग्रीनलैंड से लेकर तोरियम तक पहुंच गया केरला में? It's a fact. You have to think deep. But I'll talk of this. I'll talk of AI as a whole. I'll talk of military and the opportunities which are opening up and the dangers of all this in a separate podcast. Come back. I'll make it interesting. It is interesting. You need to have a vision for it. Let me go into a bit of history. Way back in 1946, US offered to buy Greenland. And in 1950, US opened the Thule Air Base, which is in Greenland. I'll just show it to you on a map. All this while, Greenland was under Denmark. It was not a colony, it was the protectorate of Denmark. Just 1979, Denmark gave them home rule, but under the Kingdom of Denmark. In 2008, Greenlanders voted for self-government. So the self-government has been there, but it's not independent. But there's a little gitch pitch about all this. Interestingly, 2012, now 12 years back, China's Minister of Land and Resources visited Greenland. China has been wooing Greenland for a long time. And that's why when Trump says, you all those Chinese ships loafing around, you're not a fool. He knows exactly what he's doing. And America and the American establishment knows exactly what they're doing. So far, the Biden administration probably didn't have the guts to talk the way Trump has done. Trump is there. And probably he knew it in 2019 itself when he first made that bid. But then he's making it very openly now. This is the Tula radar station. Okay. This is the Tule radar station. Or it's also called the Pitufik Air space base. Now, besides this, there are a whole lot of other places which are there, which are highlighted here, where US operated airfields. Okay, they operated airfields there because in the last century, your aircraft couldn't do a single hop across. So it was from here they used it, and the kind of aircraft were there. They needed to play, land in emergent situations. This was there, and also remember at that point of time, early last century or the late 19th century, Russia and USA were okay with each other. In fact, Russia sold Alaska to USA for a pittance, right? And there used to be flights across. the Arctic, ice caps. And for that, Greenland had its bases. Now, just think if all these bases now got reactivated. What are the kind of advantage it gives to USA? And this is a interesting. This is a map from the 1950s where they had shown. This is, of course, Alaska with a circle of Alaska, the Arctic circles. And they had visualized at that time itself, around 46, when the first proposal was made to buy Greenland, that it would become part of USA. Okay. Now, if that is so, just see for how long they can check the 4,000 miles circle till where it goes. It covers China also. And this side, of course, USA, right? And these would be the midway points from where any incoming missile can get monitored. And if USA has these and China doesn't have early warning of any US strike, whereas US will have. So it tilts the balance. Russia doesn't need because it already is quite close. So just absorb this. And this was not seen now, 50s. Many of you would think, why does China have their missile silos in Mongolia to the north? It's here, somewhere here. Because, you see, this is the thing. Yeah, if from China it is launched, it crosses and comes here. Over the pole. So this is the dynamics of missile defense and all that. Now let's look at the China factor. Again, very, 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 very interesting. I found it fascinating. To go through this thing, and then I thought, let me put it across. It would be a small presentation, but that's okay. See the timelines. 2012, I said that Minister of Land and Resources, he visited Greenland. In 2014, Australia and China, two companies from Australia and China, they have a MOU. Okay? And that MOU is to do mineral exploration in Greenland. Mind you, 2014, people were okay with China. Australia and China were good friends. Australia is part of USA, ally. It's part of the NATO, all that. So that's the backdoor entry. In 2014, Denmark came alive to this whole situation, and they claimed an area of 895,000 square kilometers from Greenland beyond the North Pole. That means Greenland jo hai up to the North Pole, and beyond they said it is our sea. Okay. Right up to Russia's economic zone, exclusive zone. And they said, look, it's all ice, it's our ice. Okay. Now, in this meanwhile, China and Greenland and Australia, they start becoming friends. And 2017, the Prime Minister of Greenland visits China. Okay. Then there's a ceremony and to launch Bidu, so that Greenland becomes a satellite station for Bidu navigation. Now all this gets reported in in China, but in Greenland it is kept under wraps. So some kufia thing is going on there. Then of course the Chinese Construction companies, they want to come and build airports there, this, that, and all that. So then Denmark jumps in and says, no, no, we'll also put in money. We will not let you. We are talking of pre-COVID when China was rising and USA was falling. Everyone was running after Denmark, China. So that's the status. Okay. A lot of investments. Have a look at these investments. China is invested virtually in Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, USA. So everyone was happy with China in that period. So they allowed China to do what they wanted. It had a free run. But now no one is interested in that. Okay. So suddenly USA wakes up and says, look, I can't allow China to do what it wants in Greenland because it affects my security. So Chinese investments stopped in Greenland. China's mining and infrastructures projects were put on hold or terminated. The Chinese wanted to buy an old air station, which was, one of those many dots which I showed you, except the Thule Air Base. They were all set to be given one when Washington vetoed the whole thing. And then they were forced to withdraw their bids into airports. Because China had by then would have corrupted all the Greenland politicians. And how many people in Greenland? 56,000. How many people? 56,000. How many people? I would say my area. I live in a place, one locality in Chennai. I'm sure that has more than 56,000 people. My locality, my pin code. The Chinese would have come, given them money, done whatever they wanted. Okay, bid for airport, build airport, fly, all that nonsense. But China, by then, USA got wind of it and stopped everything. There's some cooperation between China and Greenland, which we should know. Okay, from 2013, 2012, that minister went, so they started. In the field of natural resources, cooperation started. 2014, there was a MOU to create. The MOU was created to fully integrate global rare earth supply chains. The Chinese knew that there's rare earth out there. This is not a new thing which has happened in China that they're exploiting rare earths and controlling rare earths. So then itself they knew they had their plan very clearly. And then there were mining projects called Quanji Field Project, AO. And this was built by China Nuclear Corporation. I've written China Shanghai Resources and China National Nuclear Corporation. Why? Prima facie, to separate rare earth from uranium. Wherever there's uranium, you'll get rare earth. But China wants both uranium and things. So they become energy dominant. And of course, infrastructure. So China has been making this foray from 2012. And then they came out with the Arctic strategy. And here comes the pinch. What is this Arctic strategy? China's Arctic strategy all about? China is Greenland's biggest trade partner today. But interestingly, China doesn't export anything to Greenland. It imports from Greenland. What does it import? Seafood, ice, water, and seal skin to China. Because that water is very pure. Seafood. Because China is food deficient. Okay. In 2018, China released its strategy through a white paper. Arctic strategy through a white paper. And they came out with some fantastic logic. Only Chinese can come out with such logic. Okay. What is it? Their main principle is that China is a near Arctic state. यार कहाँ चाइना कहाँ आर्कटिक, बीच में पूरा साइबेरिया है, बट नियर आर्कटिक हो गया एज पर दिस. एंड इट प्रपोज itself as a future, polar power. Where is China? Where is the pole? And neither for polar power. Because all the time when China was on the ascendance, and that story. Now, of course, that whole thing is inverted. Okay, their geography, that just proximity to the pole was justified by a doctored map. They doctored a map and put it out. As per that, bloody China is sitting on top of Arctic pole, North Pole. They made a map. I have not been able to find it on the net. Okay. And then they came out with ideas that, the Arctic Circle and the Arctic area, the Central Arctic Ocean, is strategically relevant and it is neutral because that doesn't come under anyone's EZ, AWO, all that. And they said, we have the right to explore and exploit that area. Because that area, for some reason, was not under UNCLOS. So they're competing claims. China, which is nowhere, wants there. Denmark has claims, USA has claims, and Russia also has its claims. And they said, we have a right to conduct scientific research and all that nonsense. Okay. What has China done actually? There are a lot of voids in the European imagination, or rather the European geostrategic concept. They were not so close together. So they felt it's okay, China can go there. We are not interested. They virtually gave away Greenland and Iceland to China, and China became the one of the polar powers. And look at it another way. The presence of China in Greenland does not affect Europe fully. It affects USA. And then, of course, what happens? They want a chair at the high table as part of the Arctic Circle powers. So all these stories are there. And then they started talking of a polar silk route. सब सिल्क रूट है. चाइना में जो भी होता है सिल्क रूट है. And this polar silk route got pushed, incorporated into its Belt and Road Initiative. Now, of course, things have changed. Okay. What is latest? No, initially one report came that the Danes were not happy with what Trump said. But very next day, the Danes turned turtle. The Dane, as per Hindustan Times, the Danish Prime Minister welcomes US role in Greenland. So he says, no problem. You don't have to buy. We are your friends. You do what you want. So there's some. So will the US end up buying Greenland? Might not. That's the maximal position which Trump has put as part of this deal. But will Greenland become part of USA in another form, surrogate form? Yes. अगर Elon Musk का बस चला तो through X and this and that and plus look, the powers at play are huge. The powers at play are just not Elon Musk. The complete tech industry of tech accelerators of USA will somehow ensure that China is completely edged off and kicked out, and Greenland is virtually a colony of USA. And that's where we are heading. In the meanwhile, what has the King of Denmark done? He's changed his coat of arms. The left coat of arms, you know, was the old coat of arms, where he shows this polar bear here, along with Iceland and all. Suddenly, when Trump started talking of taking over Greenland, he's made one big polar bear. And if he thinks that this will stop uh, Trump and USA from doing what they want, well, all the best to them. So where are we at the end of this whole story at this point of time? Very clearly, let's appreciate that first. He's put out a vision of taking over Greenland, asking Canada to be its 51st state, and Panama. I'll talk of Panama sometime next week. I did speak of Panama last year, but at the beginning of 2024. But I'll go back over this and we'll talk of Panama. What are the issues involved in Panama? But in both these, who will suffer? China. I mean, let's be very clear. That's what I said a few days back also. China, Russia, USA is too strong. China doesn't have the legs to handle USA that far. And combined with its own internal weakness, China is going to get kicked out of Greenland, that I can see. China will be squeezed out of Panama. Right now, Panama, the Prime Minister and the Panama Canal CEO says, oh, we have no problem. We will take either Chinese or US ships the way they come. It's a business deal. But you'll realize it when the chabi from USA comes tight. They'll say priority USA, the rest later. So US traffic will get priority at concessional rates. Otherwise, there could be a military action. Oh, these two, I'm very sure. I'm very sure. So the moment this major choke point is, held, it's a major choke point, mind you. Then I won't be surprised if, Trump starts putting pressure on China in Latin America. You'll see this. I think China has a tough fight on, geopolitical issues. We'll talk of it some other day. And I do hope you like this video. If you like this video, press the like button and consider subscribing to Gunner Shot. You'll find it very interesting. You'll find the comments in videos very interesting because a lot of Chinese have come and started commenting on my videos on China and even Pakistanis. It's a double attack. तो बोलते हैं ना वो क्या है? So collusion comments are coming through. Read it. You feel like responding to it, respond. Even if you don't respond, it doesn't matter. I'm very clear what the thing is. And I'm going to hereafter, wherever those comments come, put my comment at the top and, put what I have to about that so that people know how important my videos are. So there's a sudden uptake. And I'm going to do one video on how China's economy is tanking. It's tanking. So we'll talk of it. So, kindly join me at that time. Now I'll take questions. Someone said on Morgan Show that Greenland was given away by America for $1 or something. I don't think so. I went into the whole thing. Greenland was never part of America. It was always part of Denmark. Yeah, Greenland was occupied by US in 1940 to protect against Germany. See, let me explain to you. You have to understand this in the right perspective. It is not exactly to protect against Germany. See, take you back to this map. Yeah. Yeah. You know, if you look at this place, I don't know if you can see the arrow. There's a port called Murmansk. Murmansk is a warm water port, right? It's always open. Uh, in the World War era, there was something called a Lend-Lease agreement between America and Russia, who were allies against Germany, Nazi Germany. So at that time, from here, there's a port called Halifax. From here, American ships used to go on this route along virtually this flight route, touch Greenland and go and put stuff down in Murmansk. A lot of American help went to Russia to defeat the Germans. And the Germans could do very little because their submarines couldn't reach to that end. And that is, it's not to protect it against Germany as much as use Germany as, it was to use Germany as, it was to use, Greenland as a staging point to assist Russia. Yeah, that's it. Maybe someday I'll explain the geography and those conditions. But there's a book by name HMS Ulysses. It's written by an author called Alistair Cook. Not Alistair Cook, Alistair MacLean. Alistair MacLean wrote this book called HMS Ulysses. Read that, you'll understand the